Good morning. I'm Governor Kathy Hochul. I thank you for joining us on this beautiful Monday morning. I'm joined by Jana Lieber, the MTA Acting Chair and CEO, and Demetrius Critchlow, the Senior Vice President of the Department of Subways. Last night, one half of the New York City subway system experienced an unprecedented system breakdown. Approximately 8:25 p.m., Con Ed reported losing a feeder for a short period of time that resulted in a voltage dip across New York City. And about the same time, 2 power plants and generators went offline. It was a momentary outage that did go to the backup system. But when it tried to go back to normal, there was a surge, an unprecedented surge, that resulted in the subway losing signalization and communication ability. And it lost that between its command center and the trains throughout the system. The trains that were affected were the numbered lines 1 through 7, as well as the L train. 83 trains were affected, but what's most concerning was the 5 trains that had been stopped between stations. This ended up leading to evacuations in the tunnels. And 2 of those evacuations were orderly and directed by emergency personnel. In 2 other cases, we experienced what is known as self-evacuation, where riders decided to leave on their own. We never, ever want riders to do that. It is dangerous, and it caused a delay in the restoration of power. The tracks are dangerous, and the last train was replatformed. What we experienced was a lot of anxiety for the citizens of the city who happened to be on the trains, and on the 5 trains in particular that were between the stations, over 500 or 600 people, about 550 people were affected. Again, this is a scary situation, something we don't want New Yorkers to ever have to experience again. And again, I say this was unprecedented. The confluence of events that led to us has never happened before, to our knowledge. So we did have a rolling restoration. It would have happened earlier, and this happened at 1:30 a.m. It could have happened around midnight, except we had to make sure, working closely with the FDNY, that because of the self-evacuation, that they had to go examine all the tracks and make sure that there were no people on them. That was a very dangerous situation. So that did delay the restoration of power. It could have been restored by midnight. But by 1:30, all trains were restored and the morning commute operations are going normally. But let me be very clear. Last night was unacceptable. If you're one of those riders or people relying on safe transport, the system failed you. The MTA is the lifeblood of the city, and a disruption of this magnitude can be catastrophic. And thank God, when you think about the time that this happened, it was a time of low ridership. It was on a weekend night, late at night, and I can only imagine how devastating this would have been for thousands of New Yorkers had this occurred during a morning commute like this morning. So I'm immediately directing a review to find out the root cause of this service issues last night. We need to know why the system broke down and why there was a breakdown of communications between the rail center, the rail control center, and the trains. I would also be clear that we've had no indication of any malicious actions that would have created this situation, and that's why I want to find out exactly what happened to prevent it from happening again. We are in regular communications with City Hall throughout this, and the Office of Emergency Management. They are participating directly. So it was a collaborative effort between the state and the city, the MTA. And I do want to thank all the transit workers, particularly the conductors who had the weight of responsibility on their shoulders to go to all through the trains, sometimes 10 in number, to let people know verbally what they were experiencing. Again, there was no communication other than what the conductor could say on the PA system or verbally went to the trains because the overall system was not functioning. So I also want to thank all the transit workers. The NYPD was fabulous. We enjoyed working with them and their professionalism. FDNY was right there on the scene doing their work. And all the first responders who worked tirelessly through the night to rescue people who had been stranded, make sure that it was safe, and ultimately the restoration of power. So I want to commend the work of all these New Yorkers and the work that's going in every single day at the MTA to make sure that everything is working right. Again, this was triggered by an incident at 8:25 when Con Ed reported losing a feeder. And I want to thank you very much. And I want to thank the leadership of these individuals. They worked tirelessly through the night. I trust their professionalism and I trust their ability to get to the bottom of this and give me a full report once they've had an opportunity to examine the circumstances that led to this, once again, an unprecedented system breakdown in half of the New York City subway system. I'll be happy to take your questions.
Again, Derek Waller with WABC. I just wanted to ask you, can you assure riders today who are taking the subway every day to work that this won't happen again?
I'd like to be able to. We feel very confident that the system would not have been restored had we not been able to check all of our systems, make sure the communications and operations are now functioning. So we reopen them with the confidence that they will be working. But again, this was something that has not happened to our knowledge in the history of the MTA. This circumstance, again, it's kind of technical, but there was a voltage dip. And when they tried to get back on, the backup system worked, but all of a sudden there was an unprecedented surge at the time they were going back online, and it caused the signalization and communications shut down. But I do believe people should feel comfortable, safe, and secure going to work this morning, and we welcome them back. And anybody who's not been using the MTA, we encourage them to get back downtown and help us bring back the city.
I just want to ask, do you know how long some people had to wait? How many minutes or hours it might have been for people to get off the train?
Yes, the system, we received notification at 8:25 of a signal challenge, problems with the communications. It was approximately 9:10 when it shut down. And service could have been fully restored approximately midnight, 11:45. So there was that time period then. But it was the situation where people had left the trains, went on the tracks, they had to be found, and we had to make sure everyone was accounted for. So that did lead to the delay till 1:30. But it was a scary time. If it's 15 minutes, you just don't know when you're underground what's happening. And I don't want anyone to go through that anxiety. This is New York City. It's a big, complex city. People are used to disruptions periodically. When it goes 15 minutes, half an hour to an hour, people's blood pressure is going up, and I don't want anyone to have to endure that. Next question.
Governor Hochul, hi. Kayla Mamalak, Fox 5. Can you explain what, if any, connection these outages had to do with a manhole fire or a fire near the housing complex?
We've investigated that, and we're not seeing evidence of this at this time, but that'll be part of the investigation. But that is not, at this moment, our understanding of what triggered this event.
It's just a coincidence, the timing?
I want to find out. The information I have right now is that it's not related, but it's something we'll investigate. Any questions?
Thank you. Romney Smith with NBC4. My question is, you mentioned that there is a backup system that went into place, but there just happened to be a power surge. Is there any kind of technical thing going into place to prevent another future potential power surge from happening?
My question exactly, the early hours of this morning. What can we do to assure people that it won't happen again? And what do we learn from this? Are there lessons to be had? Again, this is something you prepare as best you can for, but the confluence of circumstances, this perfect storm that was created, hasn't happened before, but now that it has, we will learn lessons from this, make sure it doesn't happen again.
Thank you. Hi, Governor. Katie Corrado from Pix 11. I know you said that this was really like a once-in-a-lifetime set of circumstances that contributed to what happened, but will you be looking to see if this might be a larger problem indicative of issues with the infrastructure of the subways as a whole?
Well, we are doing that every single day. We're dramatically improving our signalization. As you know, we had a pandemic pause because of the danger involved in continuing the work, but we're continuing to invest money. And thank God for President Joe Biden, who released tremendous amounts of money just this last January to the state of New York to make these improvements, to make these upgrades. So yes, and I don't know if Jana, if you want to add anything to that, but we are very aggressively going after the whole system in terms of making sure communications and signalization. This is an old system. I don't need to tell anyone this. It's been outdated. We've known for a long time it had to be done. We're not saying there's a connection at all between the age system, the signalization malfunction. That's not what happened here. There was an independent trigger. But yes, I'm very excited about working with this incredible team to get more done to improve the quality of the commute for all New Yorkers. All right, any question?
Hey, Governor Carlos Zapata from Telemundo 47. What words do you have for the hundreds of people that they were stranded last night on the subway? That's question number one. Question number two, it's important for you to clarify that there was not malicious activity related to that. Why is that so important?
It's important. This is New York City. And there have been circumstances of attacks in other systems in the private sector and elsewhere. So it's something we're always vigilant. We always examine that as one possibility. And right now it has been ruled out, and that is the good news. However, what I said at the outset, it is heartbreaking to think of the anxiety that people are going through in the wee hours of the night trying to figure out how they're going to get home. There might be children that they need to get home to. They might be leaving a work shift. I cannot imagine what that was like, and I don't want anyone else to have to endure that once again, nor does anyone at MTA. I mean, this leadership here, we're prepared to make sure that no stone is uncovered, to make sure that we ask the right questions and get the right answers to make sure this doesn't happen. But the good news is that we're having a normal commute this morning, something we didn't know as we went through the process all night long to make sure that we could open safely, and I'm really proud to say that New York City system is open completely. You're all set? Thank you, everyone.
One more question. Sorry. Is this an MTA issue or a Con Ed issue or both?
Well, it was triggered by Con Ed losing this feeder line for a short period of time. That caused a dip in power. And then the backup system was activated. But then when it was reactivated, when the backup system was ready to have us go back online, there was a surge at that moment. And this has not happened before, that exact timing of a system down, the backup, and then a surge when you try to go back online. Had that not happened, no one would have even known anything happened. It was just, so it was triggered by Con Ed, but that's why I'm calling for a full examination. I want all the answers. It's not possible for us to have them at this time, but I'll make sure in the interest of full disclosure that everyone knows as soon as I do. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you coming out.